2021 Ford F-150 Hybrid. Let's get started here. There's a couple of reasons why the F-150 stands out compared to its rivals. And that's because every feature, facet, and technology that they have implemented inside of this F-150, it's to make your life easier, not more difficult, okay? It's not just filled with gimmicks and disco lights and other nonsense that's not really gonna add anything for you. It's designed for real life people living in the real world, doing real life things. And we'll cover more of that in the interior segment. But that's nice. Anyway, we'll talk about that in a little bit. This is the 2021 model year, all new and redesigned. This is not just some mid-cycle refresh. I believe over 97% of the components in this truck is all new compared to the previous generation, so there you go. This is one of the best-selling vehicles on the planet, and that is not an exaggeration. So Ford always tries to keep this truck conservative because that's apparently what the buying demographic of these trucks likes. Okay, they don't want to see drastic changes, they just want to see incremental improvements over the years, and that's exactly what this is. But all those little changes add up to being one big change, I suppose. But anyway, with the exterior, we have the most aerodynamic F-150 ever produced. You also have these 18-inch wheels, which is part of the sport package, and they are wrapped in 275 wide tires in all four corners. These Goodyear Wrangler tires, these are truly excellent tires. Mind you, they are very quiet despite being all-terrain tires, so I am quite impressed with that. Driving around in the normal mode now, but anyway. The sport package, don't get me wrong, that's just an appearance package. It's about $300, but I do approve of it because, well, it gets rid of a lot of the chrome in the front, and these 18-inch wheels, you have a selection of 18s on offer, but I really like these because I just happen to like the design. But you let me know your thoughts in the comment section about the exterior looks of this vehicle. I'm more concerned about this drive. So let's merge onto this little highway here, test out some of this handling, because that's another area where the F-150 really shines, is the handling department. F-150, I've always said this, it's always been the best handling pickup truck that you can possibly get because of the all aluminum body structure. On average, these things weigh around 4,700 to 4,900 pounds, depending on the engine option that you choose with 4x4. Now, this being the hybrid option, or the power boost as Ford likes to call it, this is going to be around 5,500 pounds the way you see it here with the 4x4. Now, that does seem pretty heavy, but compared to the Tundra and the Titan I just checked out, those weigh 5,700 pounds. So this is still 200 pounds lighter. It's a hybrid and it's got 4x4 on it. That is very impressive. Only Ford can pull off this all aluminum body. Now, of course, the frame is going to be high strength steel, but anyway, you get the point. So out on the highway, this is extremely quiet. Like I mentioned, hardly any tire noise at all. There's a little bit of wind noise coming through past 70 miles per hour, but that's to be expected with a vehicle that sits up high like this. But this is definitely one of the quieter trucks you can get. You do indeed have double pane glass here, so that really helps with the wind noise. I did say that the Nissan Titan is one of the quietest trucks that you can possibly get, but this is certainly up there with the Titan. And the brakes on this thing, even though this is a hybrid, it reacts just like a normal pickup truck. Okay, there's really nothing strange or obtuse about the way that this vehicle handles or drives or anything like that. Sure, there's a little bit more body roll and lean, things like that, because this weighs significantly more than the average F-150 that most people are used to driving. But even though there is regenerative braking, it doesn't feel weird or strange. It feels very natural, the brake pedal, and there is some decent stopping power here despite the extra weight. And the steering, everything about it's so easy to place on the road. It handles really well. You have a great seating position. I just wish that the rear view mirror was a little bit larger. I wish they would make that into a frameless mirror and kind of extend that out a little bit. I complained about this with the Titan and the Tundra as well, but anyway. Yeah, steering is really light and super smooth. That's one of the highlights here compared to its rivals. But what most people really want to know is about this hybrid power plant. Okay, this is extremely quick with 430 horsepower and 570 pounds-feet of torque. You have here a 3.5 liter EcoBoost twin turbocharged V6 mated to this hybrid battery pack system. And how is it? It's excellent. The real world fuel economy, the speed, everything about this is truly exceptional. Now that 430 horse and that 570 pounds-feet of torque, you can achieve that with regular fuel, mind you. That's also going to help you save at the pump, and this is one of the most powerful drivetrain options you can get aside from the Raptor's high output EcoBoost twin turbo V6. Aside from that, this is like the other most powerful drivetrain option that you can get. And you do have many powertrain options with the new F-150. You can still get a V8, the 5-liter Coyote V8, that's what my heart is telling me to get, but my brain is telling me to go with the hybrid because the fuel economy gains are that good. And let's kind of stop right here, and I'll demonstrate to you the speed and the power. You can put this thing into the sport mode here, give it a little launch. This thing is deceptively quick. You will not believe how rapidly this thing picks up speed. Yeah, it's a massive highlight. This is definitely one of the fastest trucks I have ever checked out, but it also masks the speed from you. Okay, you can be doing 10, 15, even 20 miles per hour over the speed limit, not even notice it. That's almost like a luxury car aspect that this truck manages to pull off here. But what you want to know is about the fuel economy. Okay, 24 city and 24 on the highway. And yes, I've done two types of driving in this vehicle. I have completely annihilated this thing, driven this thing as fast as I possibly could, and I've also kind of driven it like a normal human being would, okay? And when I absolutely thrashed this thing, I got 15 MPGs. And that might not seem that special to you, but trust me, that is remarkable for a pickup truck. I was getting 15 MPG in the Nissan Titan, and I thought that was impressive because in just about all these trucks, okay, EcoBoost V6s, V8 trucks, I've been getting 12 to 13 MPG in like real world driving, if you will, not even thrashing on it. So when I saw 15 in the Titan, I was impressed, but this is getting 15, almost 16 with me thrashing on it. And when I drove it like a normal person, I was getting about 23 MPG. So their claims are not wrong. Now, I will say this, if you do predominantly more highway driving, okay, this is going to get 24 MPG. If you get any of the other engine options like the EcoBoost V6, the regular one, or even the V8, you're also going to be getting around 24 MPG as well. So there's not a huge MPG gain if you do predominantly highway driving, but regardless, around town, you're going to be getting amazing fuel economy, okay? Because this thing is a traditional hybrid. There's no plug-in nonsense here. You can treat this and drive this like a regular pickup truck, like a regular gasoline powered vehicle. So effectively, you're not using any fuel, and that really goes a long way. That's how you get the 24 MPG average in the city. And when you initially start this thing up for the first time, it doesn't use any fuel. It just starts up the battery pack instead, and you can kind of creep around parking lots without using any fuel. It's just really remarkable. So you can see how that can really add up to true MPG gains out in the real world. So because of that, my most favorite mode to drive around in is actually the eco mode or even the normal mode. There's no real need to drive around in the sport mode because yeah, it's really quick, but it's reactive enough in the normal modes that I just don't need to drive around in the sport mode at all. Other things to note, I did mention how I really like the steering in this truck. It's really easy to whip this thing around, and this truck is really easy to drive as well because they nailed the seating position of this truck. But one of the things I did notice was when I initially got into this truck for the first time, I thought the steering wheel was a little too large, like improportionately large. But after I started driving the truck, I started to realize, okay, the size of the steering wheel isn't bad. It actually matches the characteristic pretty well. And I guess the only drawback I've noticed to driving this truck is actually the ride quality. I've noticed that it does a pretty average job absorbing the smaller bumps, and it also does a rather average job of absorbing the larger bumps as well. So that's kind of the negatives I've noticed about driving this truck. Usually I keep mentioning the Tundra and the Titan. That's only because I had those trucks last week to test out for you guys. So those trucks are fresh in my mind. I've also driven the Ram 1500s as well. Almost all these trucks, really the Ram is the best riding truck. There's no doubt about that, because that's also got the coil spring suspension in the rear. So that is without a doubt the best riding truck, and you get the air suspension on top of that. That's going to be amazing. But even something like the antiquated Tundras or even the Titans, they do a better job absorbing the larger bumps than this F-150 does, and they can feel slightly jittery over the smaller bumps. This kind of always almost feels a little too jittery. Now, that's kind of unfortunate because we also have the smaller wheel size here at 18 inches. These aren't some ridiculous 22-inch wheels that you get with like the limited trim levels. I don't think this truck is equipped with the off-road package, and with that you will get off-road dampened shocks, so I feel like that would ride a little bit softer. I'm not really too concerned about off-roading this truck. That's not really why I care about that package. It's for the ride comfort. I think that could help improve the ride quality of this truck. So if you have driven a new 2021 F-150 with the off-road shocks, please let me know the difference if you noticed any. And I believe if you go up to like the limited trim, you might get some type of adaptive suspension there, but that's like $73,000. Even this Lariat trim, the way you see it here, is around $68,000, but that's because you have all the insane crazy options in here. I don't really think that's necessary. When I spec'd out an XLT, it came out to be around $55,000 with the V8 and around $57,000 with the hybrid drivetrain that you see here. Now, these are the only two powertrains I care about with the F-150s. It's their glorious V8 and this new hybrid. And the Lariat trim is another trim level to consider. When I spec'd one out like a hybrid, it came out to be around $60,000. So it does suck that you have to pay $50,000+ to get a decent truck with the options that you want, but that's just how it is. These things start at around $29,000, but that will be more of a work truck, if you will. It's not going to have anything in it, but hey, you can get a brand new truck if you want to for around $29,000. So that's kind of all my thoughts on driving the F-150. Okay, it's nearly perfect, I'm telling you. Okay, even the hybrid, some of you might be worried about this hybrid drivetrain, like, oh, is it kind of inconsistent or anything like that? No, it's really not. You hardly even notice the engine cutting on and off. Like, that's not even something that you notice. Occasionally, you might get a subtle jolt, but 90% of the time, it's smooth. You don't even notice the hybrid kind of working and doing its thing. So no worries there. It's a very natural driving experience. They've done a great job. They did not screw this up. The only real con I have with it is the ride quality, as I mentioned. But again, the off-road package might be able to solve that, so hopefully I can get a chance to drive an F-150 with that package soon. But anyway, for now, let's go ahead and let's transition over into the interior segment. Okay, so now that we are stopped, let's go ahead and let's talk about the plethora of features in this interior. Let's get started here. Obviously, this has been redesigned and redone for 2021, and let me tell you this, the solidity and the material choices used in this new F-150 is superior to the previous generation, you would hope, right? Sure, there's some plastics being used around here, but the point is, it's really well done, it's solid, it feels good in here. And I like how even though this is the black interior, they got some brown kind of leather textures running around. So it sort of lightens up the interior and gives it some contrast. But the big highlight here to this interior space is going to be this new 12-inch touchscreen, okay, the Sync 4. And this is yet another improvement. Now, I will say this, the standard infotainment screen is going to be 8 inches, and I'm sure that's going to be fine. But this 12-inch screen, I like the way it's implemented. It's not like a tablet sticking up on top of the dash. It's actually integrated with the dashboard, which is probably why I like it so much. And it reacts really well. It's easy to use. They were smart with the way they've used the real estate of this screen. It's not like the Explorer ST with the vertical nonsense. No, this is really well done. This is smart. When you put the vehicle into reverse, you get a nice 360 camera, and that shows up as a split screen along with the regular backup cameras. Very smart choices. You also have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but in this instance, it's also wireless. You can also connect it via the USB ports. You also have a USB-C. The reason why I like this vehicle so much is, like I mentioned before, it's well thought out, it's smart, everything has a purpose here. It's not just gimmicks, it's not just there for, the sake of being there, right? It's actually useful to real life people. Other things like these seats, right? I don't know if this particular model has it, but these seats can typically be folded flat like a bed. If you're on like the job site or wherever you are, you can actually lay down, take a quick nap if you need to, set the alarm, right? That's some smart stuff. And the other feature that many people are talking about is the gear lever knob that kind of folds in, right? And then you have this table that kind of comes out because you have this center console, the center armrest, if you will, that can also act as a table that lays flat when the gear lever is in its flat positions. Another intelligent touch, you can sign documents now. You can have a laptop, an iPad, or anything like that going here. So, we live in this technology age, right? And people on the job site, they need to have access to computers, laptops, etc. Now you actually have a place to put all that stuff, or you can just have lunch on it, right? Just smart, intuitive things I really appreciate. Now, obviously, that's only when the vehicle is in park, but I'm just saying. Now, speaking of center armrest, there is plenty of space in the center armrest, so that's great, like in every other truck. Large amounts of space here in the center console where the USB and the USB-C is located. You can easily fit large phones in there, no problems. As mentioned on the drive, you got double pane glass here on the front two windows, and it does help making this cabin space very quiet. It is one touch up and down windows just for the front two windows here. The other two windows are not. You have three-way memory seats. You got the Bang & Olufsen sound system here, and you know what? It's a massive improvement from the last generation F-150 sound system, so it's not complete garbage. It's not like the best thing in the world, but it sounds decent enough. It's, I guess, worth upgrading to, at least for this generation of the F-150. Heated and cooled seats in the front, and you have heated seats in the rear. You also have a heated steering wheel, which, again, I mentioned this is a leather-wrapped steering wheel, and it only seems to get warm on the top portion of the steering wheel. I don't know what's up with that, but okay, whatever. Climate control is very easy to use in here. Your gauge cluster in this particular model is also completely digital. And you know what? They did a great job with this. This actually reacts really well. It's easy to use, shows you some great information. You have some standard safety features here like the pre-collision safety assistance. You have a massive panoramic sunroof in here, which I'm sure many people will enjoy. Glove box has an okay amount of space, not absolutely massive, but you also have an upper glove box here. You have to press the button to make that open, but again, good storage space. And the rear seats are absolutely massive in here, like you would expect from a Crewmax full-size pickup truck. So no issues with space back there, headroom, everything is phenomenal. So you can be a giant in here. It's not really an issue. You have cup holders back there. You have heated seats back there, like I mentioned, along with your own climate control vents. I really like the space back there because the seats do fold up, and you have a rather flat load space, which is great. But more importantly, you also have this little tray that pops up, and you have some extra cargo space, and you can still fold down the rear seats and have the three seats back there usable, even with the kind of cargo storage intact. So once again, really well thought out. Now let's go ahead and let's talk about some of the other features about this machine that I haven't quite talked about yet, because there's just so many in here. Now obviously, as we already talked about, this is the hybrid, right? But more importantly, you have an option of converting this thing into a generator of sorts. So with the other regular engine options like the V6s, the V8s, etc., you can have like a 2 kilowatt generator system going on, but with the hybrid trims, you have the option of getting a 2.4 kilowatt or a 7.2 kilowatt kind of generator system. And as you see it equipped here, you can start to plug in all sorts of tools, saws, jackhammers, and with that 240 volt, I think you can even plug in a full-size home oven if you wanted to. So it's pretty nuts back there. It's great for tailgating, I guess. They really thought of everything back there. Obviously, you have the big step ladder thing with the stick that you can grab onto. You have all that. That's traditional F-150 stuff. But back there on the tailgate, which is electronic, mind you, you can drop it up and down with the key fob if you want, but also you drop down that tailgate. You have a ruler back there. You can clamp wood back there if you want to, since many owners seem to have done that anyway with the previous F-150s. They actually gave you an actual place to clamp things down with, which is very smart. There's also a bottle opener back there as well. You can use the tailgate to like cut things. You can put up a saw. You can use it as like a work table of sorts, if you will. So let's kind of move on to the conclusions here. So the reason why I appreciate this truck so much is, as you just saw here, it's been really well thought out. Okay, it's made for real life people in the real world doing real life things, and it's not just gimmicks. It's actually usable. It's something that's going to make your day-to-day life easier, okay, if you own this truck. So that's what I appreciate about the F-150 compared to the other trucks in the segment. They actually think about these things more than the other competitors. They just kind of make a generic truck. Sure, they might handle well, they might ride well, etc. Okay, that's great, but the pragmatic features that Ford throws into these trucks, it's pretty much unparalleled, especially since this is the #1 selling truck, vehicle, whatever you want to call it. I'm glad to see that the people who work on this stuff actually think about their owners, and they think about what they can actually use in the real world. So as we just saw here, it's really well done. If you want to take advantage of it, if you want to lease it for 3 years, it really makes sense, because the fuel economy that this hybrid has to offer is truly great in the real world. It really does get 24 MPG in the city for sure. So that's far better than any other truck in its class. And there is a fully electric Lightning F-150 coming as well. That's going to be a video for another day, but hopefully you found value with this review. Thanks again for watching. Take care and goodbye.